Very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to Ansarkari. So, taking up next set of important topics from 28th of November. So, firstly, what lessons India has, or what lessons we can learn from the measures taken by China in order to combat air pollution. So, we have seen, like in China, when Beijing, it was tagged as the most one of the most polluted capital in the world. Then we had again London haze also. So, what measures China take in order to uh, curb the air pollution? So, the most important thing apart from the policy measures is the political will, making this a political priority. This we were again talking in the context of Delhi also, that we are not seeing it still in the form of a political priority as of now. So Delhi and Beijing, they share some common cause and the effects. So that is why it becomes more relevant for us to study the lessons that we can learn from measures taken by China. So, be it geographical, meteorological, or the growth similarities between Beijing and Delhi, we see that, for example, both the cities, they sit on basins which is close to the mountain ranges, so it prevents the easy dispersal of the pollutants. And because of this, we see climatic conditions specifically during winters, like calm winds are there, temperature inversion is seen, humidity and lack of rain, it causes massive spikes in the pollution. Then we see pollutants from the neighboring regions, like in case of Delhi, it is from Punjab, Haryana, UP, in the NCR region. And then in case of Beijing also, similar factor was also playing its role. So, like just like the Thar in Delhi's case, Beijing, it gets dumps of dust from the Gobi Desert to the west during spring and summers. So these are certain similarities. So again, then Beijing, it declared it as a national war against pollution. So, eliminating the outdated energy production was one major step, and also the outdated industrial plants. So, that was the thing. And then, rigor of implementation was also seen to be an effective measure, or one of the important factors when it comes to effective implementation. Making policies, understanding them is one part of the picture. So it needs to be a political priority, there needs to be political will, and then effective implementation along with monitoring the impacts. So it needs to be seen as a situation of life and death. So in case of India, for example, we launched the National Clean Air Policy. And we had a modest target under this, reducing the particulate matter by 20 to 30% in 5 years across 121 cities. And the base year was 2017, and then it was again revised to 40% reduction by 2026. But the current progress showcases that we might fail to meet the target within the timeline. So again, that aspect, political will. So data is the power. First, we need to have data. We need to understand the trend, the factors in a more precise manner. Then, reshaping the transport, to shift to mass transportation and decoupling the private vehicles use from wealth, and nudging even well-heeled, like for example, case of Beijing, to embrace public transportation and cycling. So that is a possibility even in case of Delhi also. Then vehicle emission controls. So in this case, again, electric vehicles, which is again the density is one of the highest in Beijing, which is around 4 lakh EVs. So this is second highest for any city after Shanghai. And even they are having adequate amount of charging points at the same time. Now here we are talking about the right to fair share of the news publishers by the big tech platforms is a must. So the original publishers and their fair share is being talked about here, because the big tech platforms is merely a third party platform where the information, the content is being shared. So Compensation to the media companies for the use of their content by the big tech platforms needs to be addressed. So even in terms of, like, for example, licensing deals also, or the revenue sharing agreements, so there is a threat to this traditional and online format, which might again hinder the innovativeness, or which might impact the quality of content also over a longer time period. So the right to recognition and the right of original content creators needs to be acknowledged. So apart from this, we might see the issue of, again, more of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news and rumors also spreading. So public media literacy is also the role of, again, the big tech players. So we formulated fact check unit under the PIB as a measure to, again, look into the aspect of the fake news. So listen up, there's no war that will end all the wars. So war is not the solution or an answer to the war. So recently we can say that, again, the ceasefire has been achieved between Israel and Hezbollah. So peace, dialogue, and diplomacy, in the end, we see that that is the thing which brings us closer towards peace. And as we also say that no one wins a war. So around 2 lakh child marriages were prevented in a year. So here we see that actually they have been halved from 47.4% to 23% between 2019 and 21. And with this, we see that the effective role of Prevention of Child Marriage Act in 2006 that played important role. And like even 1 in 5 girls in India is married before reaching the legal age of 18. So role of NGOs, for example, here it is talking about the campaign that was run, which is the Bal Vivah Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, and focusing on the 7 states where we saw that uh, there was high burden of child marriage, which includes West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Rajasthan. So again, availability of data is important to identify the hotspots. So apart from this, we can also focus upon the raising of awareness, because legislation alone cannot eradicate this issue, because it needs the reformation of the social behavior. So there is again the Child Marriage Free Bharat portal also, which plays this role. We can report the cases also, we can monitor the progress here. For example, we also launched the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign to educate our daughters, and role of even Supreme Court here to bring all the stakeholders together in this campaign, spreading awareness, bring attitudinal and behavioral changes as far as child marriage is concerned. So active participation of citizens and community participation is a must. Now, here we are looking at the trends in the tax revenue. So, tax cuts may have saved rupees 3 lakh crore for India's corporates. So, here particularly, this is dealing with the corporate tax rate, like it is talking about the incentives which are given in order to, again, encourage more, or we can say timely tax payments, or to a measure to increase the tax buoyancy or the tax to GDP ratio. The tax incentives and tax cuts, particularly in the corporate tax rates, has been announced by India. For example, here we're talking about until 2019, the corporate tax rate was of 25% on the domestic companies, where the annual turnover was up to rupees 400 crore. Then it was 30% for the rest of the companies which were there. And then under the new tax regime, we have slashed this corporate tax rate to 22% as long as the companies they forego certain deductions which were given to them under the Income Tax Act. So we can say several measures have been tried and tested. So in this, we are seeing that, again, this is an example of Laffer curve, where we say that if we believe after proper analysis and data analytics that we are at the peak of the tax rate that we are charging, and if we reduce the tax rate from that level, there are chances that tax revenue might increase. So that's how it works. But again, there is no we can say consensus or no exact figure which tax rate is going to give us the best amount of tax revenue, or how it can work in the best possible manner, in an efficient manner. So, Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire has been achieved. So, this is being stated as first meaningful de escalation, and it must also be now expanded to Gaza also, because that is not under the current agreement as of now. So, particularly yesterday, we had a look at the map also. So, in the southern Lebanon region, we are also seeing that civilians are also now reaching back to the southern region of the Lebanon. So, meaningful de escalation Middle East since the Hamas attack began in like October 2023. Time to wake up and smell the coffee. So, here again, the role of NGOs in terms of, again, popularizing the varieties, or be it the market access, how we can make again agriculture more climate resilient, and using of scientific measures has helped the coffee growers or the farmers particularly. So promotion the domestic varieties and bringing them out of the vicious cycle of poverty, depending upon the basis of challenges that they were facing. So here, particularly, it is the Araku coffee outlet you can see in the picture also. So taking the technological measures has also helped. So this is a kind of a case study. So the farmers, they used to again rely upon the slash and burn method to organize their farming. So indigenous coffee growers in the Araku region, which is in the eastern Ghats in the Andhra Pradesh state and the Odisha border, they have come a long way. Now they are enjoying the benefits of the improved cultivation techniques which have been made, they have been made aware about. Then protection of the insurance policies is important, given again the impacts of climate change, and decent savings to show on their bank statements. So things have improved. So for example, the NGO like Nandi is an NGO, Nandi Foundation Sustainable Farming. So they have taken the help of technology like geotagging, digital payments have been encouraged, modern processing facilities has ensured the transparency, traceability, and quality of the coffee production. So how seamless we can make the entire coffee chain or the supply chain is important. So we can focus upon that. And Nandi Foundation is an NGO. It intervened in early 2000s, transforming the region's economy. So now they are able to earn rupees 2 lakh from 2-acre farm growing coffee, pepper, and various fruit varieties. So benefits is improved earnings from the coffee-free cultivation, then Buridi. These are the tribals also mentioned over here. So even we can see women empowerment has also taken place through these measures by this NGO. So they've been able to come out of this vicious cycle of poverty with these measures. So of the 25 elected members of these MAC's governing body, 12 are women. They work together to oversee knowledge dissemination and input distribution. So in a way, it has become a, we can say, more reliant livelihood option for them. So 19 to 91 formula is there. So the initiative led to this formation of Tribal Farmers Cooperative. So we've been talking about the importance or reforming the role of the primary agricultural credit societies also. So here it is in the context of the tribal farmers cooperatives, which distributes the essential agricultural inputs to more than 1 lakh tribal farmers across 1,200 villages. So that is, can say, the important role. Now, in total, we can say to date, 35,000 women farmers have been supported by Nandi Foundation. So, Arakunomics is the term that is being coined here. So PQR system ensuring profits for the farmers, quality produced for consumers, and regeneration of the environment. So sustainable practices. And the same model has been replicated in the suicide-prone Vidarbha region of Maharashtra also, expanded to other urban settings under the banner of Urban Farmers Company. So sustainability, economic empowerment have proven effective factors. So connecting them with more, we can say startups in terms of ensuring market access can also play important role. So repeated topic conversion to get job amounts to a fraud on the constitution. So here it is related to the religious conversion, that if you are converting merely to get benefits for or under reservation would be defeating the very purpose of reservation, and that would be violation of the social ethos. It would violate the social fabric. It would violate again the fundamental right that you are in a way misusing under article or from article 25 to 28, which talks about the right to freedom of religion. So if you have ulterior motives, so then there is a problem. The right to work deleted. So here we are seeing of late close to 10.43 crore MG Narega workers. The names have been deleted from the list. But here it is believed that out of this entire study, the actual reason behind their deletion is not their not willingness to work, but it is because of to maintain the or to increase the compliance percentage, specifically after the Aadhaar enabled payment system has been made mandatory under the MG Narega scheme. So to maintain accuracy and transparency, this is not the desirable measure, or that's how we can question that is it really making MG Narega meet its intended objectives, and is it really effective implementation of the scheme when the workers are being deleted and their right to work is also being violated? So, in a way, their fundamental right to work is being violated under Article 19 of the Constitution. So, this arbitrariness in violation of their right to work needs to be curbed here. So, that's what we can say about this. So, in defense of India, here we see that the measures taken to again modernize the defense production system or the supply chain. Particularly here, we are seeing certain changes which are again favoring India's defense sector modernization. Like here, we see the decline of American military industrial complex. So, in terms of manufacturing, India can play an important role, or it can establish itself as a important manufacturer, particularly in the defense production. And then we have emergence of new weapon supply chains. So India can again become an integral part of it. And another thing is growing assertiveness of China, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. So of late, here it is talking about the examples that India is taking, what measures are be taken by, for example, recent we will talk about the defense minister's visit to Southeast Asian Defense Ministerial Forum in Laos that is happening. So building defense networks with the Asian friends, that's important. So increasing role of the global South country or the developing countries is being emphasized here. Then particularly bilateral agreements. So defense sector is an important pillar there, be it with Australia or with again Japan. So apart from this, it is talking about the issues and the challenges emerging from China, like we have having certain territorial disputes with China, like in states of Arunachal Pradesh or even in eastern Ladakh, when we see Chinese intrusion into the Indian territory near the Pangong Tso Lake. And also matching up with the Chinese military capability, that is in a way a major challenge as of now. So, for example, China, it commissioned 70 submarines between 1995 and 2020. So, this scale of military production, will India be able to meet or match up this scale of military production? Because, in a way, it would also demand competitiveness and the technological expertise, and at the same time, ethical use of the production tactics or the methods.
That is why the key, the element is one can rephrase whatever we have discussed, that how India can accelerate, or you can say can rise its military industrial complex. You should focus upon the aspect of whether Indian military industrial complex is in making or not. That is the first most important aspect. And when we speak about military industrial complex, then two key areas, that is modernization of defense production system and indigenization is also linked with the modernization of defense production system.
जी sir.
Whereas emergence of new weapon supply chains is a different and a side dimension. So from that context, whole thing must be seen. When we see American military industrial complex, that is part of this article, but then that is not relevant to us. How Indian military industrial complex can rise? From the perspective and the lens of Indian, military industrial complex. So from then you have to bring whatever key side uh, developments and facts we have understood and we have practiced over a period of time. One
And
element in that is, you can take a cue from the discussion here, is that Delhi and Tokyo signed memorandum of understanding on the joint production of stealth equipment for Indian warships. That is example over here. Can you bring one more example of this sort with any other country? For example, maybe in the past with even US, or maybe with France, like, or maybe with UK. That is how one has to see, and what India is doing further to replicate this. So whether it is Cambodia, whether it is uh, certain countries in Latin America, or maybe certain countries in certain countries like Armenia or Azerbaijan, if one of the countries is there, and then what about South Africa? What about Maldives? Wherever we are giving. And third element is uh, joint exercises. In that context, you can say uh, the shared interests in the regional security order.
जी sir.
And you must also pick up wolf warrior diplomacy and even charm diplomacy. So, have India ever practiced wolf warrior diplomacy? Have India practiced charm diplomacy? What diplomacy India practices when it comes to uh, having its outlook? So, India practices legitimate, legitimate way of doing things. It promotes democratic legitimacy or political legitimacy. Then you can pick up some elements which are given here in very brief in one line, that yes, China is becoming more assertive. China is, we must cut down the gap between their defense capabilities and our capabilities. So that is why greater security cooperation with the US in last one decade, it is there, presence is there. Secondly, can India become a NATO ally? India is a minor or non-NATO ally. So what is the way forward for us? And modern ammunitions, missiles and drones, whatever is there. In the present geostrategic circumstances, geopolitical circumstances, what India is having in terms of options. So global defense supply chain is reshaping and the growing military challenges are there, what role India can play? Is Europe going to get little bit more immersed with India, or like we just said, defense industrial roadmaps? What is this? So when we speak about defense corridor in India, we have also created couple of defense corridors. Then you have to bring that also. And the role of institutions like DRDO, everybody is going to write that. But then will you be able to bring seven key elements maybe within 1 minute? That is the only point. Rest all, I believe we have been working in that ways.
जी सर.
Can
So
you can move to the next topic?
So here we're talking about echoes of survival. So one of the former Nobel Prize winner in literature, Svetlana, she is again her upcoming book from Chernobyl 1997 stands as a powerful exploration. So witness literature is being mentioned over here, how it confronts history's darkest chapters. So in terms of its relevance in the present context, the lessons during all those events, how they are relevant in the current uh, changing geopolitical scenario holds significance. And also, in terms of addressing certain misinformation, disinformation, or the rumors and the fake news, so there also it can play a foundational role. So,
Here, what is very important to understand is that popular uprisings, nuclear disasters, civil wars, forced settlement, they are very, very important keywords. One cannot bring them if you close your eyes and just think about it. Geopolitical tensions, they are very important reminders that what is happening around the world, what had happened. That is why one interpretation is they are the darkest chapters. Why? Because they are unsettling humanity. And they, one of the ways they must not be or they are not forgotten is through writing. You must be able to bring the name of 2024 Nobel Prize in Literature, Han Kang's name, why it is unique in 1 second. Can you tell me?
no, so
Yeah, so that is given even in the first paragraph, and already we have discussed it couple of times. Because she is also bringing traumas and fragility of human life. Han Kang, this name you have also discussed in previous ones. First South Korean woman and woman Asian writer. In 2024, she got this award. This is the one thing which we can take up. If we go through this, then okay, one name is Han Kang's name, that is fine. The next very important is the name of Svetlana that you just said, Svetlana Alexievich. She is writing about Chernobyl disaster, 1997. This is second example. So, third example is of Chauri Chaura, Shahid Amin. How 1992 angry mob set a police station ablaze, leading to death of 23 policemen. But the question arises, how the event happened, what are the different interpretations and what are the symbolisms? How there were different groups in the village or maybe in the surroundings. They have retold, they have seen the story. So this is the oral history. If we are able to even remember or understand these three ones, then the job is done. Because there are other examples also given, but as I am saying, you can have leisure reading, you can have technical understanding, they will be of no use. You can move forward.
So here Delhi's pollution curbs. We saw that yesterday also that Delhi government has announced certain amount of compensation. So it is their workers protest for loss of income or even their priority or looking at toward their own survival versus the quality of air. So they are more concerned about their income, their own survival, able to meet both the ends meet. So again, this is how it is impacting. Air pollution is not just an environmental problem, it is an economic problem also. It's a political problem also. If we talk about that, we need political will. That is the first necessity or requirement to address this problem.
So here what you can say is that pollution, air pollution for India is a great challenge. It is chipping away certain part of GDP without even being visible directly because it is present, it is omnipresent. Section of society which is directly impacted is that those who are on the marginal areas or those who are suffering from cyclical uh, poverty. Elements of multidimensional poverty can also be seen. Because they are not a pressure group, that is why their voice is not heard. Even judiciary had to intervene. This is an example of proactive role of judiciary. Otherwise, it was the role of executive actually to take care of not only just that section but other sections also. Suppose all children in Delhi, instead of going to school, they come to Kartavya Path and India Gate and protest against pollution. What will happen? Income loss is directly visible for these people. Otherwise, everybody is losing their bit a bit. So that is why they are in fact an early signs of awareness, an early signs of dangerous situation which will escalate and arise annually. It is not about welfare schemes and funds only. It is about finding sustainable solutions, and that is what is the role of the executive. Both the state and the central government must do it on priority, which they are not doing. It also brings into picture role of vote politics or electoral politics where these issues are not in the center. So that is why on positive side, construction workers they are protesting. Many more want to, but they can't even. More groups are there, not only just that. So this is an example of again pressure groups, role of NGOs, role of environmental groups. But this showcases that how dangerous situation is emerging, and within 1 decade, more inequality, more challenges will emerge if course correction is not made.
So, One Nation, One Subscription initiative is being talked about here. Recently, it has been launched and it aims to provide government run higher education institutions equitable access to 13,000 scholarly journals under a single platform. That is what is called one subscription. So,
So
this
this is also linked with the idea of access, academia, and it also showcases how R&D without research and development, HEIs, they cannot bring the best on the table because it is a very hard labor and HEIs can access journals through different libraries consortia and for that government is paying. So library consortium, that means more than 2 or 4 libraries, they are cooperating and similar kind of resource sharing is taking place. So one keyword here is influent, yeah, or you can say infli be net. That is also providing certain more like EPG, Pathshala and others on the open platform. And it is also Inter-University Center of UGC. So UGC Infonet Digital Library Consortium now making things more open. So this is a scheme. Why? Because government wants to again consolidate and bring all journals access for all government HEIs. Thousands of journals on one platform. Even some names are also given. The question arises, are there any Indian journals also in this? The question arises, are we creating certain kind of understanding? 6,000 crores have been put up for next 3 years, and more than 13,000 and beyond that is also available. As I just said, so best scholarly journals so that research and development can rise. Secondly, avoiding duplicity. Third, government as a as the one who is spearheading this process, it can better bargain and negotiate with the publishers because they have been meeting with the different publishers from the last 2 years. And the center will also be getting insight that how journals are being used and downloaded. The root of this idea goes to NEP 2020 and National Research Foundation, which is going to start providing and also impacting India's knowledge system. So the role of government, role of Ministry of Education, role of Ministry of Science and Technology, committee was constituted, and rest of the ways it is an example of also good governance. It is an example of progressive governance. On the same lines, when you are talking about schooling in India in the times of poor air quality, first of all, it is for everyone, even these writers also if they are in Delhi. But the situation is getting worse. It is a big, big challenge. People can have even their careers. If someone is going to take up this emerging challenge and devote their lives into it, it will also be worth because it is something like fighting against colonial rule. It is not just for India, not just for Delhi, as I was saying, but even rest of the Indian cities and rural areas. One can also understand that for underprivileged children, even school is better at times because school may have air purifiers. And online classes cannot go for a long time. Higher level learnings, like the way we are trying to do, is one of the options, but then for that, one has to be 20 plus. The idea of GRAP, can you see the full form of GRAP?
So, graded response action plan.
So, grade 3 and 4, GRAP 3 and 4, which led to the suspension of the classes. It asked children to wear masks. Because even during pandemic, masks were not recommended for children who were younger than 5 years or maybe 7. That is why scientific understanding is very much required, like the way we take up any challenge. For even one example was the vaccination. One key loss is the learning continuity loss. That is why high level skilled cohort is not there of young people, and it is not there. That is why overall, like the we speak about, even when we compare Nordic countries, their GDP is maybe 20 times more than India. The question is not of just writing this article over here and understanding it. Where is the role of Department of Education? Where is the role of district administration? Where is the role of, even if we say, state government and central government? So it is not the question of schooling in India in terms of poor air quality. It is a question of a big challenge, how to tackle it. So these are not real solutions. Like the way Grab, you just said 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe judiciary will again have to force and come up in couple of years and to bring a roadmap. Can you please tell me, or do you think what state government or central government roadmap must be there with the existing institutional mechanisms?
So here we can talk about three areas: the policies, the usage of innovative technologies, and economics. So firstly, we can talk about crop diversification and the measures taken by government. For example, the state government of Punjab or Haryana providing financial incentives to the farmers to shift to other sustainable crops like millets or oil seeds and pulses. But here again, we face the challenge of the adequacy of the financial amount that is being provided. So if the farmers they decide to shift to other crops, so even the central government's share of input subsidies which are provided, that would decrease, so that amount can be compensated in terms of direct financial benefits under the DBT system, direct benefit transfers. Then so we can talk about increasing the adoption rate of the electric vehicles under the FAME policy which is there. Like we were discussing this in context of China also, it is one of the second highest, Beijing city is the second highest city where electric vehicles are to the tune of 4 lakh.
So
So
that
that,
is how, yes, correct. That is also one we have to understand. So you can just name it Chinese model.
G.
And very briefly in 2 lines, you have to explain what happened in rest of the world, how they handled air pollution. Air pollution has no wonder pill. Even air purifiers, if you go scientifically, then they are of no use. They are less. They are very little helpful
G, sir.
because you cannot completely close the indoor areas also. So even air pollution, air purifier, in fact, air purifier is creating another kind of challenge.
Yes, so we have
They are
talked.
also a marketing gimmick.
G.
So you have to bring holistic up answer into it.
Commercial interests are also
So one,
increasing.
two, three, four, five. You have to tie down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then move. Similarly, when the Israel Hezbollah ceasefire is there, then what interest India is having? India spoke long back that
Yeah.
the war is not the solution. But then, do you really think the conflict is going to stop for a long time? It is not a solution. The solution lies in implementing already existing roadmap plans and understanding that all concerned groups and parties, they must give up their vested interests. So what are the vested interests? Hegemony or taking extreme positions. So this can be a sign of de-escalation, but then this is not a solution. India must understand challenges will emerge again, and India will also be indirectly impacted. Similarly, another, this lesson plan is also talking about the same thing. Israel agreed because Israel also knows this is not a long term war, cannot continue endlessly. And then Israel also wants to showcase that, or wanted to portray that a considerable amount of what I should say, crushing of these militias has taken place. But then, what are the lessons to learn? That even after so much of bloodshed and violence, Israel's civil military framework is under stress. The political and military objectives have not been met completely. Israel experience of fighting in Lebanon. It is effective, but then strategically very much costly, one can say. It is bitter. Hezbollah remains very strong. So the ceasefire again is not a long-term solution. All big powers, including United States, Russia, China, Europe, must come together, including the Arab world, must sit down, keep their egos and their issues aside, and must find a solution for the common man, because the genocide, that is what ICJ talked about in the occupied territories, and International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrant against Netanyahu, they must be discussed. And finally, Lebanon and Hezbollah, they have also accepted, they must also understand Iran must be provided with its dutiful rights, but anything which is beyond international norms, governance system, and also any proliferation of nuclear weapons and nuclear energy must not be promoted. But then again, the world must understand, like the way India had always taken a nuanced stand. That is why it is very important India must be given its dutiful rights in no, not only United Nations but otherwise also. The crushing times for Israel will also not stop as long as there is no peace. Every state in India, they have been moving towards different kind of social security plans to fulfill aspirations of the people, whether it is about agriculture, women, tribals, and the weaker sections. In that context, social security for platform workers, because not every state is going to do this. Many companies headquarters, Swiggy, Zomato, others are there in Karnataka. So that is why this is a social security plan which is government uh, draft notification was done, that is cess based social security for platform workers will be there, and the benefits will be there, 1 to 2% on the platform turnover, and it is subject to maximum 5% of earnings of workers. Again, this mini lesson, it speaks about that what was the gross order value for from food delivery and what was the adjusted revenue. Is really platform making great profits, and are the workers earnings are really so high that they will be able to do so? But then will the government be able to provide all the money? What should be done? So the component of payment of delivery workers do not showcase that they are really earning in a way where if they are to be provided social security plan, then cess would be there. But government had tried to come up with a solution. It is not the question of the amount of order and total turnover. Why not Zomato and others? They must move forward because there is a institutional mechanism of employees uh, state insurance, provident fund, ESI and EPF. There must be more rigorous implementation of the norms and the set rules and regulations, not just for social security work, these the gig platform workers, but also for other groups also. Same kind of system must be in place. So, what, according to you, must be done for social security workers over here?
So, as you stated that this cess-based model is not going to promise us uniformity or surety in terms of the amount that would be generated. So, a more sustainable measure on the part of again CSR funds contribution that can be one of the ways
But
of.
then Zomato and all that, they will be coming under the category of startups, and they under the Companies Act and other kind of rules. We have to see Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the norms on under which multinationals and companies operate. Are they operating on the same level lines? One has to understand. So that is why it has to be a holistic exercise. It has to be a more aware, more smarter exercise rather than startups just looking forward to create unicorn and not making a long-term difference. So you have to just understand and bring the middle path. Do you really think government will have the means? Government is having the means to provide social security to all the groups when there had been a trend of directly giving cash to women between 18 to the older groups, or for the farmers, or for the unemployed, sorry, unemployed graduates, youth. So bring the whole scenario into it and then look for sustainable one or two solutions.
जी सर.
Not just with the PMLA, but with others also. There are issues with the system as far as bail and timely trial is concerned. For that, institutional framework need to be more strengthened. Digitization is already going on. More awareness and more constructive role of quality law graduates and the role of bar, how it is coordinating with society. More belief and faith in the government system, and good harmonious relations between executive and judiciary, because judiciary also needs more infrastructure, more resources. That must be done on priority basis. When we speak about the constituent of legislatures, India democracy is the largest, but then it is not the idealist. More older, more richer, such segments are making to the assembly. It showcases that what kind of strata and what kind of segment is able to be part of the power. That also means more inequality, more social and economic gaps, lack of faith and belief in political system and politicians, youth not really attracted, not finding an ideal career except like the way we talk about Bollywood nepotism, same kind of nepotism is here. For example, Parag Shah, Ghatkopar East MLA, is having more than 3,300 crores of assets. He is a real estate developer who says that his assets grew by 500 crore over the course of election campaign alone. So the question is of a desperate system, demoralized system, cannot provide new limelight to the youth, and that is a really challenging task because that is not how India will be able to raise its GDP or even become a developed country. It will remain trapped in the middle age, a middle income trap if couple of things will not be coming on track very soon. Because the initiatives like this MSME technology centers, which are coming up in the PPP mode, they are only couple of drops in ocean. MSME technology center is a wonderful example, but then the initial setup in very important industrial and also economic places like Coimbatore, Pune, Jabalpur, Rourkela, Jhansi, Ambala, is it going to replicate itself? Because overall we know 23% of India's labor force is in MSME and more than 27% of GDP is through MSME. But are we doing enough? Again, the same kind of challenges which 85% of population in India is facing and the kind of life they are living, is it replicated through legislature and executive? Whatever is the institutional mechanism by Ministry of MSME or even Commerce or even Finance and the role of banking system, are they really doing so? In this context, even the internship, PM internship scheme can also be questioned that will it be able to suffice a long term employment? So we have to understand the challenges. Great challenges are there. So there is no time for other kind of VC's agendas. India's manufacturing not moving up had been a long time question. So jobless growth, first we were speaking about, now we have to see whether growth would also be there or not. Because when we talk about manufacturing and manufacturing which is contributing to 45% of country's total exports, then the role of FICCI, role of SHM, role of CII, and on the top of it, each state government is having their own, lot of other bodies are there. There has to be a comprehensive dedication, determination, and coordination. Even when we are speaking about coordination, we are speaking about, the curbing of the vulgar social media content, then we have to see what Australia, what US, what UK, what France they have done, what they have been able to do in this regard. Is our parliamentary standing committee or even government of India is powerful enough? The question also arises existing laws are stringent or not, and how we will define vulgar content. Means there are gray areas, but misuse is definitely there. So, like newspapers, because democratic institutions and traditional forms of press, there are editorial checks and balances and accountability and correctness. How to create such kind of system for OTTs? You tell me.
So here we can talk about the role of, firstly, public participation and censorship boards, or such small committees can be constituted in states, or even when we're talking about the role of fact check unit under PIB. So their role should also be looking into the regulation of the OTT or the social media platforms in
Yeah,
this point
people
of
if
view.
become more aware, then they can obviously put to the grievance. Uh, there must be more awareness among the users for their rights under the IT rules. More proactive role of grievance appellate committees. There is a system because government was initially wondering that there would be flood of complaints with the people complaining about violations by social media companies, but then it has not been so much. And many of the maximum complaints which were there, they were resolved. Even GSEs have issued notices to social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram. So most important role is of information technology, intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code rules 2021. Many users, they do not appeal if their problem is not resolved. And people are also going to redressal forums against harms caused on social media platforms. The government went on to start up these GSEs as an alternative to an user, to the users actually, to file appeal against the decision of a grievance officer, so that people will not be directly going to the court of law. So that is why this understanding had to be there. What is the best way? Because there is always another side also.
जी सर.
Here is an example of aluminium firms which are seeking tariff cover because our domestic capacity creation is at the lowest level and import dependence is increasing. So the gap between consumption and production is very high. Import share is increasing 56% as a part of total consumption. That means more than 55% of domestic consumption is meeting through imports. And as we were talking about, like the bodies like Aluminium Association of India and Federation of Indian Mineral Industries, the usage of aluminium is in EV, is in infrastructure, electric vehicles, as I just said, and obviously renewable energy sector also. But if low quality aluminium scraps and surplus primary aluminium uh, imports primarily from China, this is threatening our local production and investment viability, then what is the way ahead? So the solution that AAI or the Aluminium Association of India is saying is that increase import duties on primary and downstream aluminium products and even on the scrap. That is substandard scrap which is coming here and then it is used. And please boost domestic recycling. Then only you will be able to purchase. Even time will come when even all aluminum goods, they will be from the imported stuff. So hike in primary and downstream aluminum duties. Vedanta, Hindalco, Jindal Aluminium, and even PSU, that is Nalco. If you see the globally scenario, then consumption is increasing, but weakness is there in Europe and North American markets. Government must provide increased budgetary allocations. Logistics infrastructure in mineral-rich regions like Jharkhand, Odisha, and couple of more states. From the financial perspective, element of GST compensation. And when we are talking all this, then we have to understand what is green energies and what kind of sustainable stuff we are creating. Because per capita aluminum consumption is very, very low in India. It's only 3 kg, where the global average is 12 kg. Again, one of the reasons why India will remain, one can be little afraid to say, lower income, lower or middle income trap. How capacity production will there be more? Whether the figure you are not able to recall. Because as we were talking about MSMEs, it is directly linked with that. 8 lakh jobs, especially in the rural and semi-urban areas. So, in order to have a Viksit Bharat, it is a big, big challenge. Without regulatory support, without competitive edge, it will be very difficult. And it is in this context only one sees coal mines, another dimension of the whole economic perspective. So the name of these mines are very important from the prelims examination perspective, because lesser known names will be coming up. So they are very important. Rest one must understand what are offshore mineral blocks, that is across Arabian Sea and Andaman Sea, because they will be providing sand, lime, mud, and polymetallic nodules, very important for infrastructure and high tech manufacturing. Because when we speak about green energy and green energy transition, these are high demand minerals. India must develop diverse mineral resources. For a long time to come, we are going to depend upon coal energy only. By 2070, we speak about complete transformation. But will it be sufficient and possible? And how country can become more self-reliant on the domestic coal production? Because we give a lot of foreign exchange. And the kind of techniques and strategies used for mining, are they environment friendly and sustainable? And will they be providing high quality life and beyond? So in this context, the role is of Coal India Limited. And when the government is focusing upon opening and commercializing new mines, there must be more transparency, more openness. The political industrial nexus must be broken along with the negative role of bureaucracy. Similarly, is another element of MSP, the legal cover for MSP. It is a debatable point because agriculture distress cannot be taken away only by MSP to 23 crops for which group of farmers have been demanding legal guarantee. Input is increasing, climate and weather is one of the points, and then again and again create uh, deteriorating scenario with respect to soil and inputs, the pitfalls and negatives of green revolution, especially in the belt of Haryana and Punjab and western UP. So it had already provided a great boon since 1960s, but then huge prices being paid in terms of stagnation, in terms of debt, in terms of unsustainable cropping patterns and environmental degradation, and on the top of it, air pollution. And also, no futuristic employment to the youth. It is creating a kind of social unrest and inequality also. So, is the solution is cost plus determination to prices? What is the solution to create a new generation of success towards Viksit Bharat? Or is only providing a legal guarantee or like deficiency price payment and higher direct income support is the long term way? That is what is the question you must be asking. Another dimension in the economic context is of non banking financial companies. That means they are not able to reach even up to the MSMEs the way it should be, not even reaching the role of the farmers. They are somewhere in between because of the large, lower, and lower middle class in India. And even RBI has taken a note, and that is why the crackdown on these microfinance companies to stop sanctioning and disbursing new loans seems to be a sudden halt. But then the larger aspect is of RBI's powers in regulating NBFCs. Repeating factual information which is required to be known by us all times is RBI coming through RBI Act 1934 have power to regulate all aspects of NBFCs. It is a complete code in itself because NBFCs may provide systemic risk because they are dependent upon bank credit. It is essential. So RBI is a guardian. It is providing a guardrail also. Next role is of the institutions like SEBI, 1992. It is also empowering itself to protect the public interest and the public investment. Like RBI, it is also having enforcement powers. SEBI, thorough process involves conducting an inquiry, giving opportunity to the party, and then parties having a role to appeal, statutory appeal, and the decision will be there by SAT, that is Securities Appellate Tribunal. And finally, they can go to Supreme Court also. Similarly, the third element is of the Insurance Act 1938. It is also providing similar kind of process where appeal can be there against IRDA. So RBI, SEBI, IRDA, they all are very, very important bulwarks of finance system or the whole economy. So RBI would also be giving an opportunity to NBFCs. Like unlike SEBI, RBI Act is not codifying the requirements. So that is why company can shout that our natural justice is harmed. Right to hearing is there, but then it will be more organic, more broader. So there, someone claimed that there is a regulatory gap in the RBI Act. So that is why another element which is very important here is the role of Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, FSLRC. So as to harmonize financial sector laws like the way we were speaking about one nation, one subscription. So it cannot be, it need to be harmonized, may not be uniform. That is how FSLRC suggested that there must be FSAT. Like the way for SEBI, you have SAT. Similarly, for finance, you must have FSAT, Financial Sector Appellate Tribunal, as an appellate authority for the entire financial system. It will be under or below SAT. It will be hearing not only from SEBI but IRDA and so on. So the question arises, is it the right time to revisit Financial Sector Legislative Reform Commission's recommendations so that statutory procedures and remedies in the RBI can be there, like SEBI, or RBI is beyond or bigger than the outreach and the sanctity and also acumen, financial acumen, or there is really need to provide a statutory right of appeal to NBFCs, like the way it is done in SEBI. Or can we compare SEBI and RBI on the same platform? Or what more can be done under the RBI Act which can act as a deterrent or which can discourage poor NBFC behaviors? Though RBI also takes due process and also due systemic precautions and an approach because they had been forewarned, they had been already said that action will come. So it should not be surprise for those parties but the stakeholders. Or the question arises, is there, like the way we speak about judiciary, that it is a regulatory outreach by RBI? These are some of the questions which one must think of. But in the longer run, if any kind of public confidence and also any kind of economic encouragement which must be there, not only for the investments or foreign investments in India, but also the overall economic and political scenario, then only you can say that we will be moving forward. Because it is again a kind of a linked process. Because see, the another mini lesson that we discussed about is more than 11,000 crores is lost to cyber frauds. So it is a churning is going on. On one hand, farmers, on one hand, MSME, on one hand, NBFCs, on one hand, sectors like aluminium, and on the other hand, the role of RBI is not able to create enough awareness or even a whole banking system and even duly elected legitimate governments. It is not about just cautioning, it is about stopping, which is not happening. So everyone is seem to be inadequate and a failure because money is often withdrawn using checks and central bank digital currency. So anonymity is there. Government is doing. It is trying through freezing 4,50,000 mule bank accounts which are used to laundering the proceeds of cybercrime. Citizen Financial Cyber Fraud Reporting and Management System. You must remember always this phrase, and that is CFCFRMS. Very, very important. Cyber Crime Coordination Center, I4C, under MHA. I4C has blocked more than 17,000 WhatsApp accounts also. So digital security is need of the hour. Very, very important. It's very shocking. Stock trading scams more than 4,500 crores and more than 1,500 crores through digital arrests. And all more importantly, on the top of it, more than 99% cases are not resolved. This is more than sufficient for any meaningful person to dedicate themselves towards public services in order to make any sense out of their lives also. Niti Aayog must play more proactive role, not only just through book, but also providing a level playing field and also bringing the whole federal structure into the perspective through MSMEs or through other kind of developments, including defense and even for cyber frauds. But here it is speaking about uh, aviation sector, which must bring such steps that India becomes aviation hub, and there must be a role of multiple ministries. One very important thing is if the jet fuel cost is not reduced, tickets will not come down. Secondly, hiring rules for foreign pilots will make us more hands-on approach because we need more pilots, we need more infrastructure. And if the process even of airline permits is smoother further, then there may be no duopoly or no monopoly, and there would be more companies in the fray, and it will be easier at the end of the day because ATF prices, that is air turbine fuel, when they are lower, then it will make a difference. It is not under GST because states are free to tax them, and AFT prices in India are nearly 60% costlier than in Dubai, Singapore, and Kuala Lumpur. And think about Indian airports and the amount of people, those who can travel. So economic viability of aviation sector will be there for all, and it will not create any kind of discriminatory environment if these steps are being taken. When we speak about agriculture and agri-allied sector, like the way we had seen, if seen here, it is seen from the perspective of climate change and green energy and green environment. Because recently only through one of our working courses, when we wrote answers on this, then methane is a major greenhouse gas contributor to climate change. About 30% of planet's methane production come from cattle, and in fact, one of the answers was speaking about this only. A single cow can burp 99 kg of methane every year. That is 100 kg. And we are having around 20% of the global cattle population. It is the world's largest. And we have 54% of the buffaloes and more than 150 million goats and 75 million sheep. This is the figure which you must always have in your mind at any moment. So the answer lies in adding red seaweed, which is rich in protein, and red seaweed is found on the Indian coastline. If it is added to the cattle feed, then it will uh, cut down on the methane emissions because United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, they have agreed that we will try to do so. Seaweed is seaweed must become part of animal feed and fodder, and distillers dried grains with solubles, that is a toxin issue. So variant of red seaweed It will have nutritional value. It can be added. It is one of the points you can always bring in. Norway had started that, and because we have already only taken the half of the topic, we can't speak much. And this is very poor light as far as the background work is concerned. Again, when we were speaking about import of aluminiums and even MSMEs and also even NBFCs, it is in this context that India's import and export with China is a major factor for Viksit Bharat, because the magnitude of discrepancies between trade data from India and China indicates major anomalies. There must not be great discrepancy, because otherwise everything will be haphazard and results will not be there. Discrepancies about 15.5% of the previous year, which showcases that India's merchandise import from China is lower than when we compare it. Basically, that's what we can say. So the magnitude of these discrepancy indicates anomalies. That means, again, it is not the question of data only, it is the question of economic behavior and also institutional work methodologies. What kind of methods are being employed in order to see textiles, clothing, iron, steel, electronics? Because the role of Director General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, Ministry of Commerce, and also other groups is very important. The divergence in India-China trade data is starkly evident in the imports of elements like shipping goods, aircraft, textiles, clothing, iron ore, and so on. So what it showcases? That under invoicing of shipments by Indian importers, because then they will not have to pay import taxes. Under invoicing of imports is a way which will be hurting very badly not only Indian economy but also Indian GDP, and at the same time even a role of enforcement directorate and other bodies comes into picture, which had already been looking into many such cases. That means there is a systemic issue which must be taken very seriously, and we must find more robust and rigorous ways, whether it is Indian customs and central excise or even the role of world integrated trade solution like the World Bank. It is playing a role, and also the behavior of Indian bodies which are importing and those Indians which are involved in this. Air pollution is a big issue, but the plastic pollution is there for the whole world to see. So the key word here is Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee to develop international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution, including maritime environment. It is taking place at Busan, South Korea. We have read it innumerable times that every day 2000 garbage trucks full of plastic are dumped into the world's ocean, rivers and lakes. We can be safely say 2000 plus. So plastic pollution is a global problem. More than 23 million tons of plastic waste leak into aquatic ecosystems. 23 million tons. Role of UNEA, United Nations Environment Assembly, need to create a robust legally binding instrument. India is an important key part, though India per capita GDP or per capita plastic production is very low from our side. India must get financial and technical assistance, including transfer of technologies. Multilateral fund must be there to provide grant-based finance to developing countries. Developing countries will be mandated to replenish that fund on the periodic basis, which they must do. Otherwise, everybody will suffer. India also wants to propose that there must be a subsidiary body, equal representation of developed and developing countries, guidelines, policies, and administrative arrangement must be there. Resources must be given in a timely manner. The model proposed by India, it has been under operation for some time under Montreal Protocol, like the way ozone layer depletion had been handled. It is a practical and workable solution. So the key thing for us to understand is that the role of UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme, role of UNEA, the amount of plastic being dumped, the workable solution given by India, the multilateral fund it is talking about, grant-based finance it is talking about, governing body must be there. These are the key things which must be taken off. Just by advertisements in a traditional media is one of the ways, but then always remember there must be more smarter action than this. This is one of the ways. So one has to think being a DM or being an SP, what I'm going to do. MSP is not just one of the issues, or agriculture distress is not complete without understanding even public procurement. Public procurement disputes are very serious and they are intricately linked with India's economic growth. There will be higher cost for projects, cost overruns, and even obviously public interest will be eroded. One example given here is the Supreme Court's judgment that is Central Organization for Railway Electrification versus ECI, SPIC, SMO, MCML. No need to remember the complete one, but one must know. And Ministry of Finance guidelines on public procurement dispute resolution. So how India is going to resolve its disputes in an arbitrary in an arbitration way, not in arbitrary way. How arbitration can become more effective. So the public contracts, that is very important for economics option also. There must be clauses, future looking and also very much clear and harmonious. But the arbitrator must not be appointed by one body, for example, government entity only. There must not be biasness. There must be fairness. Another example is of the Finance Ministry's hybrid dispute resolution framework that is below 10 crores through institutional arbitration. Larger ones will go through mediation, but not the smaller ones, and obviously court litigation is there. How to make sure that India's arbitration system becomes more mature, how it can handle high value and complex cases. That is one issue. More value must be there to these kind of issues because more efforts must be made to create a systematic institutional process. Because there are large number of agencies and large number of institutions involved, that is why systemic issues and there are no incentives for public officials to negotiate settlements because there will be allegations, there may be other kind of problems which may come creep in. That is why oversight panels can be there, through fair transparency can be there, complete documentation can be there. Unilateral approach will not work. Standard contract templates must be forward looking. India must take up how these things get resolved in the developed countries, advanced economies. Because public procurement dispute, they are involving huge amount of money, billions of rupees. It has a cascading impact on infrastructure development and economic growth, whether it is a port, whether it is a highway, whether it is expressway. Global competitiveness is also lost. So we cannot become Viksit again if these gaps are not addressed. Capacity building can only take place in public procurement if everything is being overhauled and there are no biases. There is reduced dependency on the courts. Trust is there between business, public sector undertakings, and legal experts. So, this is one of the very important and crucial insight into public procurement, which must be summarized within 2 minutes. PAN 2.0, one of the other ways to prevent frauds, to prevent scams, and also to simplify the process and also to remove any kind of duplicacies and also to structure economic processes like Aadhaar and other numbers. There will be a single number. QR code would be there. So it's a way forward, and it is an example of moving forward towards harmonious and towards seamless integration. This will be a this will be, you can say, a positive exercise. This is all for the discussion in the session today. We'll be taking forward further very, very important and crucial areas tomorrow and so on. Thank you very much.